Right. Great. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to have so many people here. As I said, we've had over 100 people sign up for the webinar. So hopefully everybody can get on as they're coming in dribs and drabs now. So you're on a call called, it's a preview webinar for our upcoming 2 retreats here in Spain, called Transcending the Personal and Helping Others Transcend the Personal. So we've got our 2 leaders of those retreats, if you like, here with us today, Dr. Jack Pransky and Gabriela Moldonado, Montano. And just to say, you know, those of you who don't know anything about Jack and Gabby, which probably is quite unusual, but just to say that, you know, Jack's had over 20 years of experience, as has Gabriela, sharing the principles. Jack's a well-known author in the community. Somebody Should Have Told Us is one of those books that I know loads of people recommend. And Gabby's been sharing the principles in schools, youth, not-for-profits, alcohol, drug addiction, government agencies, you name it, she's done it, I think. Same as Jack. But the most important thing for me personally as a person is I absolutely love these 2 human beings and their souls. For me, they ooze love. That's the energy that I always pick up from these 2 guys. So I just feel really blessed that they come to Spain. Like, you know, I get to be on the retreats with them, get to be on the trainings with them and spend time with them as friends, as colleagues, as mentors. So it's a great privilege for me to introduce them to you today and let them kick off with Transcending the Personal. See what they've got to say, if anything at all, and if not, we'll open up for questions. Over to you guys.
Well, I'll take a shot at starting. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all, and it's great to see the people I know well, and it's great to see people I don't know very well, so it's wonderful. But I first came up with this name. This name, Transcending the Personal, just came to me, and I didn't know where it came from. But I just knew that it had to be done, that there was tremendous juice in this topic. And part of the juice of the topic has to do with, well, everybody, we're obviously in the world of the personal. We live in the world of the personal. And that's what gets us into trouble. And when we really, but the interesting thing about the personal to me is that it can never really solve its own problems. That it's the creator of the problems, and it tries to solve its own problems, but that's where the it tries to trick itself, but we're being tricked all the time by the fact that we are separate from the formless. And that's where the transcending comes in, is because the answers to our problems and difficulties don't lie in the problems that are created by the personal, but they lie in what happens when we transcend the personal. So in this retreat, we're going to both explore the personal and what it does to us, like the different facets of what it does to us, and then understand what transcending really means, and then talk about transcending to what, and what it brings us when we step outside of the personal into the formless energy behind life. Like, what does that really mean, and what does it bring us, and how do we get there? And so it's like, and one of the things I was thinking of at first was, my goodness, how are we going to have enough material to fill up 4.5 days or however long it is? And now, the more I've thought about it, the more I think we need a 10-day retreat to do all this. And so it's just going to be filled, not with information, but filled with us all joining together in an exploration of something that's it's a combination of so real and omnipresent with mysterious. So that's all I want to say for a start. Gabriela?
Well, I mean, I think the truth is that we probably dance with this all of our lives, right? We dance with the personal all of our lives. I'm watching this great documentary. I don't know if it's a documentary or more like a soap opera, but let me call it documentary, on this wonderful, wonderful Cuban singer that passed in a few years ago. But she is the queen of Cuba, and her name was Celia Cruz. So I don't know if some of you are familiar. So she had a very unique voice, and she played with a band that was called La Sonora. And in the 50s, I think, again, like the 50s, they really took that kind of music all around the world. Fantastically talented. And all the musicians were extremely talented. And in looking at this documentary, one of the things that I'm appreciating is their constant practice. Like, they would get together, they would join together every day and just jam together and see what they discovered together. They would play the same songs, right? And so for me, the song is the ego and the personal, because the principles work in such a way that we can't help ourselves to experience the personal in our lives often. And I'm so inspired about getting together and jamming with you and really discover what can we see about this human experience of getting confused at times and thinking that what we have created through the principles seems like the truth, and nothing but the truth. Mm-hmm. And in preparation for today's webinar, life gave me a wonderful opportunity last week to get entangled with the personal. And I don't know if you want to say anything else, Jack, before we move on. Do you want to say anything?
No, I think I'm dying to hear your story. So let's just do it.
And this is a story really just to illustrate how subtle everything can be. So I have been, battling with some bronchial stuff for 5 or 6 weeks, like many of you around the world. And my energy really was extremely, extremely low. And so I noticed at first that I was like, wow, I better start doing something about it. When I started getting sick. So I started, taking vitamins and doing this and doing that, etc., calling doctors and all. And I experienced this process of really struggling with this bronchial situation as a huge problem, because I'm getting ready to do some stuff and I had to cancel classes and clients and all. And it felt uncomfortable. It felt very uncomfortable, the fact that I had to do all of this. you know that sense when you get that feeling that you get when you are experiencing something as problematic. This is problematic. It needs to be fixing here. Somewhere at the beginning, like week 2 or 3, I had a little window, a little insight that helped me a lot, which was go to the couch and lay down. Just go to the couch and lay down. And so I would go to the couch and lay down, and I would enjoy laying down, watching my documentary, my soap opera thing. And all of a sudden, the nagging feeling of this is a problem came back. This is a problem. It's a problem that you don't have this. It's a problem. And I would start feeling a lack of peace, you know, and a lack of wellness, being sick, just kind of like, okay, just in the couch. And I would feel this like, you got to do something, you got to do something, you got to do something, you got to do something. And then this little bubble of just laying the couch would pop back in. And I struggled with that process probably on and off for a couple of weeks. In the back of my mind, I think the part of this is a problem became a little larger and larger as I was not getting well.
What would you say the problem was?
The fact that I was not well and not doing.
Not doing.
I'm not doing, you know, I mean, I just really couldn't do. I just had to be in the couch, really, for a few weeks, for a few days at least. And so the problem was, it's not okay with me that I am physically sick right now and that I have to just lay on the couch. There were moments where that fact was not okay. And then there were moments where it was okay, right? And so the only thing that I can tell you is I didn't even know that was occurring. I didn't know that through the principles, I was creating a personal experience of being sick that added to my physical illness. I didn't even know. Because everyone that I talked to kind of was pointing to the same direction. It is a problem that you're sick. Are you doing enough? Are you resting enough? You know? Maybe there's something psychological that is kind of creeping up. So it just kind of I really got cemented with that this is a problem. And so the more that became part of my experience, the more frustrated I felt with all the symptomatology that I was experiencing. So it was interesting because I was in a physical state of, you know, discomfort and really struggling. And I was in a psychological state of discomfort and struggling, which I attributed to the physical fact of being ill. And it was so subtle. I cannot even tell you how subtle it was. The only thing that I could sense was a greater sense of discomfort and a little bit of anxiety. Like I started getting anxious. How come I'm not getting well? How come I'm not getting well? How come I'm not getting well? And a couple of times I noticed a sense sort of hopelessness. all of it attributed in my head at that point to, you know, this physical condition. So anyway, you know, I move along and I move along and I move along. And everyone I talk to sort of kind of is, you know, yeah, this is a problem, including doctors, of course. And then once in a while, there was this, just go and lay on the couch. And I have to say that it was so wonderful when I was in those moments where, you know, I was really just watching TV a lot, laying a lot. But when I was laying a lot and watching TV just a lot, with that universal freedom, right? I mean, nothing physically changed. I was still coughing a lot, but just, okay, this is where we are. Everything felt lighter. You know, I just sort of felt the freedom. I felt the freedom just to do nothing. And then it would come back again. So we wanted to use this example to illustrate really how we all experience the personal every day, and how we all transcend the personal too every day.
You know, one of the things that strikes me about this is that, so physical illness is really in the outside world. I mean, it looks like it's inside because it's in our bodies, but it's not inside in terms of our spiritual nature. So it's an outside world phenomenon that we use the three principles to create the experience of what that is for ourselves at this particular point in time. And we use thought in a personal way to create that. So consciousness is making it look real, and so we're getting a real feeling about it. And then we try to solve it at the personal level, and it doesn't work. And then we get an insight from where? From something that transcends. Insight, go lie down. You know, on the couch. We're not trying to come up with that. It comes. And when we listen to that, we're fine. And if we try to get back into the personal to try to solve it, we're not fine. I mean, we're really fine, but we don't think we're fine. So this illustrates, you know, your example here illustrates what we do with just about everything that comes up in the world with us personally. Everything.
With everything.
Yeah, with everything.
What was surprising to me again is how quickly I got on the horse of the personal. I mean, I am telling you, I was like, maybe I just have some thought that is really causing me some heaviness, you know, like the struggle, like, why is this happening? From the intellectual or the personal part, which is what you're describing, right? Trying to find a solution from a entanglement. And then I was calling my cousins, well, you know, maybe we have some genetic thing. And all along was like, okay, just go lay down. Just go lay down.
And you know what go lay down really means? It means rest in the quiet.
Rest in the quiet. Be.
And the answers are found by resting in the quiet. So the personal, like the ego, is always trying to trick us into thinking that there's a solution in the ego, in the personal. And, you know, you could go down that road until you're blue in the face. And, you know, we keep coming up with little things that try to make us feel better, because that's what the ego or the personal is trying to do, is trying to make us feel better. But it's always looking to the outside world to try to make us feel better. And so we can only get a temporary feeling better. Because there's no real feeling better in that world. The real feeling better comes from resting in the quiet. Where really all the answers are.
That felt so nice to me, Jack, even right now, you know, when you were saying it. I was telling you at the beginning, or, you know, a few minutes ago, that it surprises me. It surprises me so much how we get entangled in the personal, thinking that what we're experiencing is truth about life.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I tell you, it surprises me. I had, you know, all of my body convinced, all of my feeling convinced, right? I had a real feeling of, this is the truth.
Mm-hmm. And it is to the ego. It is the truth to the ego with a small t.
Mm-hmm. So in a lovely conversation with my dearest friend, Anna Holmback, who is right there, we had a conversation, I think it was last Saturday, you know, we had a conversation, and, you know, it's interesting how you can hear the truth. You just can hear the truth in your being, right? Like you just hear it. And so Anna said to me, it is a time to rest. And that resonated in my being, not because Anna was saying it. I mean, you know, I love Anna, and she's a very wise person, but not because she was saying it, but because it really kind of made a sound in my soul. Mm-hmm. Of, yes, it is a time to rest. And what happened next really shook me, because I wasn't expecting this. What happened next is that I could see in my mind the layers and layers and layers and layers of thinking that I have about not being productive, not helping the world, not contributing. I mean, I could just see it like records falling, you know, just like dominoes. You know, like the dominoes, how you put like a million dominoes and then you take one and then it just kind of clicks down. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even realize how many ideas I had that I thought they were truth. No wonder I felt so heavy. Mm-hmm. And then in a moment, because mind works this way, the next big, huge insight was, there is nothing to do. There is nothing to fix. And I tell you what, I just, I felt my soul expand. I felt my, my body just go like, and I loved how it happened, how, transcending the personal in this particular example, happened so spontaneously, so naturally, so gently, so softly for me. And it just sort of changed the whole experience of being sick.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that strikes me about that is that, you take a thought that's a beautiful thought, like, I want to be helpful to humanity. And yet, even a thought like that can turn on us, or we allow it to turn on us, ourselves, when we think that we have to be doing it better or more or something like that. That's how subtle the personal is. Because even a thought like that can give us a yucky feeling. And whenever we have a yucky feeling, we know that the personal is at work here. And that personal is not serving us well in that moment. And what happened, it sounds to me like what happened was you got, in that moment when you saw all that and realized there was nothing to do, is you got released from the personal. And fell into the place where all answers lie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I think what I loved about this whole experience, and then I think we can start opening up the floor for questions, is that Anna and I were preparing to do something. I mean, we had like 10 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes. I don't even think we had 10 minutes. And I was just so grateful that it doesn't take, that wisdom can come at any time, that it doesn't take like this special condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that I've been studying the principles 21 years, right? And I get caught in it. Because I tell you, it gave me such a sense of compassion for other human beings when they too get cut. It's like, yes, I know, it feels real. I know.
That's right.
And
we're supposed to know better.
Yes, we're supposed to. So I just love that. I love that it was such a short period of time. I love that. I don't think that was our intention. I love that in the moment, Anna just sort of said, there's something kind of that I want to share with you. It's kind of bubbling up on me. She shared it. I heard something, right, profound in that moment. And then I think within the next 5 minutes, it was just different. And I think this is the nature, right? This is the nature of the principles and how we experience them as human beings in our psychological life every day. We do this all day long. And it's just so subtle and it feels so real. that here we are again. What do you think? Do you think we should open it up to some questions?
I do. Thank you for that story.
Oh, no. In preparation for the webinar, live.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you did it.
No, that's not why I did it.
So who has questions out there?
Comments or anything?
Wave, okay, is that, are you waving, Bob? Is that what I can,
Yeah.
Great, you mute yourself. Good.
I would just like to comment on how perfectly the wisdom served your situation. I was reading how our deepest levels of rest are where our body goes into the repair and maintenance mode, and it cannot unless we're in the deeper level of rest. And even eating before you go to bed is enough to interrupt that cycle. So you can imagine if you go to bed with worries or a thinking or, you know, whatever, keeping you from going into that deep stage of rest. And when you think about it, sleep allows us to go into that silence and that peace and that realm of well-being if we let ourselves, you know. But some people, nighttime's the time when they start ruminating on their problems and tossing and turning. But I just marvel at the wisdom, how it gave you the perfect solution: lay down and rest. Beautiful.
Thank you, Marty. You know what touched me about what you said is that it was a moment of appreciation again, how like what mine is. It gave me just a sense of, and I love it when this happens to me, when I can just, you know, momentarily see that mine, this energy of life that we are all part of, is so vast. And it's just so rich, and it is just so resourceful, and it is just so creative, and it is it's just so much.
And all the intelligence of the universe is there. And all the answers are there. And yet we keep falling back to our little old personal stuff to try to give us the answers when we have this unending, limitless, we have access to this unending, limitless source of all. It's really amazing to me how much I forget this. What else you got out there? Oh, Anna.
Anna.
I didn't expect that I was going to talk. I just want to listen. But I just, you know, I stayed with what happened. And when Sheila, you just introduced, starting the webinar, you introduced Gabby and Jack, and you spoke about the love you feel for them. And that was like, oh, yeah. And it just, as Gabby was telling, you know, that when that happened, and I remember after that, that I thank her, because in our interaction that we run this workshop, online workshop in Spanish, and I said to her, I always feel you're with me as there's nothing to fix about me. I always get that. And you're present with me. And I'm so thankful for that. And it just came up again because I feel that allows in between each other to transcend our own thinking and allow for something even deeper. Because I didn't know where it came, to rest. And it wasn't like you just need to rest because there's something wrong. It wasn't. It was like rest. But I have felt with her that rest throughout all the sessions that we've been running. That rest of there's nothing to fix. And I'm very thankful for that.
That's great. This is why I love to work with Gabriela.
Mm.
And it's like embodied in universal mind, and what comes into our pure consciousness is love. And Gabriela is love.
I believe John's got a question. Do you want to unmute yourself, John?
Yeah, what I wanted to say was it strikes me that we can't transcend the personal unless we become aware that we're entangled in the personal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we become aware, sometimes that's all that's necessary. We become aware, oh, there I go again.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It just has to be those little moments of waking up where we go, oh, did it again, entangled in the personal. So that's just something I wanted to say. Just
Thank you.
because it happens to me all the time. If you're entangled in the personal and you don't realize that that's what's going on, you're a distance from transcending it. But the moment that you go, darn it, happened again, then you're off the hook, sort of. You're okay. You're good to go.
And maybe there's a way to know this quicker.
Mm.
That's
what I'd like to know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to explore that during the retreat. How is it possible to get less trapped, less immersed in the personal before we catch on?
And less often.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I love, John, the neutrality that you've brought for every one of us about getting caught in the personal. Because, today it's like, this is not a big deal. We are going to get caught, and then we're going to get uncaught, because this is just sort of the nature of the principles, and one of the things that Sid mentioned at one of their retreats, and it just really touched me deeply, is you wake up, right? Like, oh, here I go again. And then you go back to your routine. So I love the neutrality of, let's not create this as a problem and let's fix it. It's not like, okay, now this is what we have to fix, right? One of the things that I think was very helpful is starting to look into this direction, kind of like, because I had done all the common medical things that I thought, which actually came to me at this point of rest, which is like what Marty was saying, that I was resting and was thinking, I probably should go and talk to this person, talk to this doctor, make sure this, make sure that. So all of that had been done. I can see that if I didn't understand at all how the principles work, I could see how I would have taken a different road, which would have been all medical.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see that. So I think definitely, and what I've noticed in my life through these 20 years is I like to talk. I like to not to talk. I like to talk about. I like to reflect about the principles, because the more I reflect about the principles in my personal sphere, right? Like, let me see how this works for me. That has an impact in the rest of my life. It has an impact in moments like this. It has an impact in my relationships. It has an impact in the way that I deal with the medical community. It has an impact in the way that I share. It just has an impact. So I think one of the wonderful gifts of having times like this is that for me personally, it's a time of, let me just discover. And somehow that appreciation that there is a richness in the principles and the not knowing, in the unknown of the principles that we can count on. Like that, just that point personally has been so comforting. Just really appreciating, what are we talking about? Where are we pointing ourselves towards? And we're pointing ourselves towards the source of everything that we know, of all creation, of all wisdom, of all kindness, and of all love.
Mm-hmm. I am so grateful for knowing this. And, even when I forget, because I have the opportunity to wake up to it again. Once again, I get lost. Once again, I have the opportunity to wake up to it.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Comments?
Maybe everybody's resting in the quiet. That's nice.
Maybe I just want to, that last piece that you just mentioned, the opportunity to wake up again.
Mm-hmm.
That was like now for me. I never saw it this way.
Oh, wow.
And this is, just gives such a twist to all of it that, yeah, because I was just tangled up in something before this call.
Mm-hmm.
I was wishing so much to get out and to see it now that actually when being in it, it's an opportunity to wake up again. That's the thrill.
Mm-hmm.
Even if being in, I will see next time I'm caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And but I am very grateful to have heard this. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and the interesting thing is that when we get into a personal difficulty, and then we wake up, we sometimes see things across the board. Like we jump a level of consciousness and see things across the board in a different way. So it was good that we got into this personal difficulty. It's all serving a purpose. Every personal difficulty that we get into is an opportunity to wake up, to see more new across the board.
Mm. Mm.
I'll share something.
Go.
I learned some things that helped me with three principles long before I learned the three principles. Many years ago, I read some books by Jane Roberts who channeled Seth. And he was telling us how we're hypnotized into ways of thinking, our perspectives growing up, that we get these habitual patterns of thought that we aren't realizing that we're always thinking from because we've been using them for so long growing up. And then a girlfriend was taking Feldenkrais, and she says, "Can I use you? I need somebody to practice on." So she taught me things I didn't know. She said that your body begins to move in habitual ways that sometimes cause tension. And so she said the way to undo it, she wanted me to give me an exercise to practice. She said, do something different, anything like eat with your left hand or something. So like I have a habit of my silverware drawer, every 2 months I change where everything is. I move the forks and spoons and knives over so that I have to consciously think when I go. I really interrupted my habitual thinking of the way I did things. So I often will eat with my left hand, or I'll do something different. And it actually breaks up your habitual patterns of the way you do things and helps you step in a new process. So I just wanted to share that by doing that, I've been able to wake up more often to when I'm in that thinking pattern, because I've been doing that for so long. So I know I don't want to list a technique, but it was to get us out of our habitual pattern of movement and stuff like that. So I found it also works for thinking. It's because we're always doing something the same way. We get dressed the same way, drink our drink the same way. So it's hard to get out of the patterns of thinking because we're addicted to it. We're sort of addicted to thinking that way. So I just wanted to share that because that little tip really changed my life in many areas by doing something different when you can think of it.
Yeah, and it's like it would be, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but nothing else is coming to me as a word, so I'm going to use it. It would be dangerous to think about that as a technique, because what works for you might not work for other people. But there's a really brilliant message in there about what that means. I'm reminded that there's a movie an old movie now called Tin Cup with Kevin Costner. It's a golf movie. Mm-hmm. And there's a time in there, there's a scene in there where he all of a sudden stops being able to hit the ball straight. And his caddy tells him to do stuff like put his hat on backwards, to, just do things and he can't understand why his caddy is telling him to do this stuff. And he says, just do it. Just do it. Don't question it. Just do it. And the purpose it served was to clear his head of the personal. And when his head cleared of the personal, he was able to hit the ball straight again. And that's exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about. It's clearing the head of the personal that does it.
Yeah, well, Mr. Feldenkrais just found out when he was treating people that if he could get them to break a habit some way, do something different, that their body would heal. They would stop holding their shoulder the same way or something. They weren't actually, sort of like the three principles, they weren't actually working on their shoulder or whatever, but by doing something different, it started to break their patterns, the way they walked or bended or whatever like that. So we all might choose to do something, you know, you might not use your silverware or anything else, but when I spark this seed, you might think of something that you could do different that would be for you, that would, you know, work for you, because it's not, you know, we all do different things. There's a million different things we could do different, but I just shared it because it did, I find in many areas of life, it just traveled over the way I'm thinking, the way I'm acting, everything, just by doing that simple silverware thing in the drawer.
Right. And I just want to make sure that people understand that it's not in the doing, it's in the head clearing. The head clearing is what does it.
Yeah, because you're not, you know, so for some, I thought it was magical that just be doing something differently would affect so many areas of my life, but it does. Now that I'm doing the 3 principles, I can understand why it works. I mean, I didn't understand why it worked back then, but it does. It just gets you out of that habitual way of thinking, moving, eating, whatever. It just, when you're eating with your left hand, for instance, it breaks the pattern of how you are. I mean, you have to think more to do it. You have to be more in the present moment, you know? So maybe you're smelling the food or tasting it, or you're just having a different experience than when you're just sitting there automatically doing it the way you've always done.
Right.
It does, it gets you in the moment.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
A comment.
Sally. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Sharon. Sharon, hi, Sharon.
Sharon and then Sally.
I really had to just like come on and say, hi, Jack. I haven't seen you in 100 years.
You know it. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. And thank you so much. This has been beautiful, and it's really timely. I was really sick this past week. It's my first day back. And it was really amazing because I had a lot of exciting things I was going to do this week that one by one got canceled. And I thought, oh, I'll just be, you know, the first day I thought I'll be better tomorrow. I'm in such a good space. I'm just going to bounce back tomorrow. And then it was like, well, by tomorrow I'll be great, you know, and it kept going. My body had other ideas, but it was, I just was really struck by how the thoughts would sort of come across my mind. Oh, darn, really? I'm missing that. Oh, darn, I'm missing that. And one of them was an opportunity that I thought might blossom that into something else. I'd sort of had thoughts about it that won't happen because I missed my window. But the thoughts just kind of came and they just kind of passed. Like sort of, and I didn't mind that I had them. And I noticed that they didn't really linger. And and I had a beautiful week being sick. And I had a beautiful week even missing the things that I was missing. And I've just noticed that the more universally I see this, without exception, it's like my pulse, the pulse of my mind is just gentler. And I'm feeling so grateful for that. And the other piece that occurred to me when you were talking about continually having opportunities to wake up, because I mean, I still had moments where I felt crappy in my body and my head, you know, but I was just noticing how this is the first time in my life that I really believed it when people have said there's something in the waking up. Like, it wouldn't be much of a life if we were always there, you know? And in the past, I was kind of like, yeah, sure. Like, you wouldn't want to always be happy. Like, I didn't quite buy it. And what's just occurring to me is that it's not just in the contrast. It's not just in the getting lost and then being awake. It's in the moment between those things. It's in the moment of waking up, not for the results of waking up. And I think I'm reminded of it might have been Sid who said, like, when you touch that space, you're touching God or something like that. I don't know the quote, but But that's what it is. It's not just in the results of feeling so wonderful. It's that every time I get lost and every time I wake up, it's like what life is. It's what life is about. It's what this journey is about to me. Yeah. And I just, yeah, that's it.
That's really beautiful, Sharon. Really beautiful.
Thank you
so much. I've got a question for Gabby, actually. When Gabby was explaining or sharing what was going on for her while she was sick for 6 weeks period, there was a moment where she was sharing her appreciation for mind, and she started talking, oh, I realized about the creativity and expansion. At least those are the things that I've heard. And I really felt that my body started expanding, or at least my awareness started expanding. So, Gabriela, I don't know if it's a too far-fetched question, but can you please share more about what do you see about mind? What is your, what you see in the moment, right here, right now? What does mind mean to you?
Well, what I can tell you, what I remember of that moment that I was describing, Klesia, is the same feeling that you described, or of expansion of my body and rest. Right now, let me see. I think I just get marbled. I get marbled, I get teary, I get grateful, I get joyful, I get hopeful. When I get those glimpses of what are we talking about here? You know, we're talking about really life, the energy of life, dancing and creating these movements that are held in space in such a way that then we get tricked, right? But this energy of life it's so pervasive. It's just around all of us, and I lose sight of that all the time. You know, like all the time. I was just so relieved and grateful to have had that little like peekaboo, you know, like, okay, remember. And I love that for me, the experience of the principles really, if I look back at my life, I've had moments all along that I've had insights and whispers of mine, even in the middle of a tragedy or even in the middle where I was completely stuck. I love the fact that we're talking about something that shows up because it is a fact and it is a law. It is something that is. And it is not dependent on our practicing it or reading about it or anything. I mean, it is helpful to understand it, and I really like to point myself towards that direction. But I love the fact that every single human being on earth, whether they know formally about the principles or not, has the capacity to have an insight that will transform their lives and let them experience peace.
And the only thing that I would add to that is that it is who we really are. So we could never get away from it, even if we wanted to. And therefore, it's always there for us to draw upon. It's like we're drawing upon the true nature of ourselves and everything else in the universe. It's always there for us to draw upon, and we are so eager to think that the personal is what has the answers.
I think Sally had her hand up.
Yeah, Sally got it. Yeah.
Sally.
Have you got time?
Yes.
Yeah, they have, Sally. Yeah, they have.
Yeah, I'll only be quick. No, it just made me realise, listening to Gabriela, how much the principles has done for me that I hadn't even realised. And Gabriela's just given me that insight, because I had the same virus that it sounds like everybody's had. And my personal started getting in the way of I should be doing, I should be. And I think I've always thought I was stubborn before, because I would always fight an illness. But you've just made me see, Gabby, it wasn't because I was stubborn. I never ever listened to my wisdom before. And this time, wisdom was telling me I needed to rest. I needed to go to bed. I needed to care for me. And for the first time ever, I took to my bed. And like Sharon said, I actually enjoyed being sick, because I took food to bed with me and drinks, and I accepted that I was physically sick. And I recovered so much quicker than I have ever with that sort of illness. It always used to turn to pneumonia, or because I'd always be fighting it and thinking, I've got to go out and do this for somebody, I've got to help them. And you know what? After a week of me being in bed, the world hadn't ended when I went outside. And Gabby's just made me see that. It was my wisdom was telling me all along. I just never listened, never trusted my wisdom.
Well, Sally, thank you for giving me, props there. But I just want to reiterate that, really, when we get any insight, it comes from us. Kind of like Anna, when she shared this, it was beautiful the way she shared it with me. I get the sense that if I would have not heard it resonated in me, just like you're hearing it resonating in you, right? And so I just wanted to say that because, because really the place of stillness that Jack was talking about is in us. Always. Thank God.
Yeah, that's what I was also meaning, that I sat in the stillness in my room and accepted that I was physically ill, and then I was quiet, and all that guilt and should be's all dropped away, and it was just an acceptance of I'm ill, and this is how it is. And yeah, the quiet came, and it was just a different experience for me.
Sally.
Tell you what happened?
Oh God, sorry. My phone just flew off. That was a divine intervention there. It flew off the table.
Oh, Sally. Thank you for sharing that, Sally. And thank you, everybody, for sharing and asking not too difficult questions for Jack and Gabby.
You're welcome.
And I hope on some level that you have the same experience of Jack and Gabby that I have. but that's just, ooh.
Here.
I started sharing the screen. Ooh. Can you still, is everything looking a bit strange to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody's sharing their screen.
Not me.
Deborah, might be you. Deborah, are you sharing your screen? Okay.
Somebody's sharing their screen.
I think it said Deborah. Deborah, just so you know, I'm viewing your screen right now, and so is everybody else. We've got an elephant.
Love the elephant.
It's gone.
Yes.
That was the first. We've had other things show up on the screen that weren't meant to be, but not an elephant.
Elephants are a great blessing. I'm taking it.
Yeah, taking it as a good sign. So
Sheila, before we sign off, can I just toss something in?
Go ahead. I wanted to say a couple of things. But
Yeah,
go ahead,
I
John.
just want to toss something in because I just feel the impulse to do it, and that is that these two, they do these retreats together and alone, and there are always different topics, but in a curious sort of way, the experience and the message is fundamentally the same. And when you go to one of these, if you haven't experienced them, I'm just saying this for anybody who perhaps hasn't been on one of these retreats with these two marvelous people. When you go to one of these, it's like you become reacquainted with your humanness, and you become reacquainted with the humanity of others while you're there. It's what Gabriela is saying, that we make our own discoveries when we're there. It's coming from us. But what they're able to do for us is to set a really rich table from which we can feast while we're there and nourish ourselves. And I just felt, when I went the last time, I felt just so renewed, because it's so easy for us to begin to lose track of our humanness and begin to think of ourselves and think of others as kind of functions, and that's the personal. We think of ourselves as the doing rather than the being, and so it's just a kind of a gift to be able to. And it's the group too. It's my experience when I went there last time was how much I took away from all of the other people who were there. Just priceless, really. So just saying. Just wanted to throw that in.
So I'll pay you for that afterwards, John.
Yeah, he paid me really, really big bucks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, John. Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, having participated many times in retreats with Jack and later with Gabby, it's definitely a group thing. It's not about the people at the front of the room. It's definitely a group thing, and we all explore with each other. That sounds a bit odd. We all explore each other. There you go.
Speak for yourself, Sheila.
So really, just to wrap up, to remind everybody, there are two retreats. There's one in June. There's one at the end of October. There is an early bird which finishes at the end of this month. So one retreat you can save 300 euros. We're paying in, aren't we? Euros. And the other one, if you book both, you can save 600 by the end of this, if you book before the end of this month. So just wanted to point that out. Oh, and for people who pay in full, there are still a few one-to-one sessions left. There's a bonus with Jack and Gabby. So if you get in early and you book your place, then you get a free one-to-one session with either Jack or Gabriela. You choose. I will be sending out the recording hopefully tomorrow. Technical angels on our side, and yeah, really, really grateful for you accompanying us today. And nice to see old faces and make acquaintance with some new here too. Lovely to see so many new faces too. So have a good evening, everybody, or rest of the day, wherever you happen to be in the world. And we'll see you soon, we hope.
Wonderful to see
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye.
Thank you, Sheila.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Good to see you. See you. Hey, Sally. Bye, Sally.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye.